Come along while I make the most tastiest and crispy popcorn chicken. Alright, so let's dive straight into this. So we're just going to pop back really quickly to yesterday, a few hours ago, where we're going to start. So for the best popcorn chicken, you really want to marinate your chicken, and remember chicken thigh. Chicken thigh is much juicier. You really want to marinate that chicken thigh in buttermilk and a few other flavours for at least, I would say, the very least 1 hour. Try to make it 3, or what I usually like to do is overnight. So I'd say up to 24 hours. So last night, or you could do it in the morning, grab some buttermilk, cut up your chicken thigh into all similar bite-sized pieces, remembering that you might lose a little bit of size once it cooks. Remove any excess fat that you don't want. Again, kind of up to you. Too much fat here is just not really necessary or needed in this recipe. So you could just basically pop this chicken straight into what I've done, a snap lock bag with some buttermilk. Make sure it's all coated the chicken well. But I like to add a little bit of salt, a little bit of just crushed garlic you can see here, and a little bit of just very roughly chopped chunks of an echalot. So this is just like a very mild red onion. You could use proper onions, but just remember that you will get a bit of a raw oniony taste, so you don't want the onion to be too strong. An alternative would just be use chopped up green onions, like the white part of the green onion, just to get a bit of onion flavour in there. Or again, just put garlic, up to you. And if you like it a little bit spicy like I do, add a nice generous squeeze of chili sauce, such as sriracha. You don't want to use a really sweet sauce, just something that's got a little bit of a nice kick in it. Alright, so we're back. About 24 hours later for me, however much later it is for you. Pull your chicken out of the fridge, and you can see it's nice and marinated and nice, and it'll be nice and juicy. And remember, the marination time, the longer it is, the more flavour is really going to penetrate into that chicken, because it's different, the coating is different to the actual chicken itself. So I'm just going for the maximum amount of flavour, but that's really up to you. So from here, we're just going to dredge this straight into the flour and spice mix. So in front of me, I have poured in my flour, I'd say about 1.5 cups here to 2 cups. I don't really measure, what up to you. And I would have a base set of spices that I would suggest that you put in. So for me, those spices are about a teaspoon of onion powder, about a teaspoon and a half of garlic powder, again kind of up to you, a nice generous bit of probably a teaspoon and a half of salt, about a teaspoon of white pepper, about a teaspoon of coriander powder, and a little bit of baking powder, so I'd say about a teaspoon. And the baking powder really helps to make a crispy and light, like kind of poppy style skin. So all of these I'd say is a base. If you don't like something, you don't have to add it in, but this is just creates a really nice kind of balanced flavour. And yeah, I very much suggest that. But what I like to do and what I have done, I have also added about half a teaspoon of celery salt. I can add a teaspoon of smoked paprika. You can use normal if you'd like to. It just adds a really nice rich colour, and the smoked adds obviously a little bit of a smoky taste. I also added about a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. So remember, if you add sriracha or any chili sauce to the marinade, the buttermilk and chicken to marinade, it will be a little bit chilly. But yeah, add as much spice as you'd like. I liked these to be a little bit spicy. Last but not least, I've added in about half a teaspoon of dried oregano. So again, this just creates a really nice, rich, wide flavour, because again, you don't want to add too much of something. You don't want to taste a particular spice. You just want to have a nice round depth of flavour. Alright, so basically now I'm just going to mix this all up with a fork, and I'm going to start dredging the chicken. So I'll put a few in at a time, just make sure it's nicely covered in flour, and then I'll set that aside to get ready to deep fry. Now some people will like to put this back into their buttermilk or their dredging mixture. I find once is fine. Just make sure that you've pressed quite firmly that flour onto the chicken. And of course here too, make sure not to grab any of the onion or the garlic or anything like that. Just discard that, that's not necessary. But if you've added onion and garlic, you will really notice that flavour, and the smell once you open the bag is incredible. Also, while I'm doing this, I like to switch my deep fryer on. So here you could just use a pot if you want to, just heat some hot oil to about 180 degrees Celsius. I like to just do this in my deep fryer, it's easy. Pop the oil in. I like to use usually vegetable oil, sometimes peanut, whatever, canola, whatever you have, whatever you want to use. And I find about 180 degrees for about 2.5 minutes is fantastic. For this size, you don't need long. Some people like to put them in for more like 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, and that will really dry them out. But remembering this is deep fried, so it cooks much faster than in the oven or shallow frying in a pan. So just remember, you may have to test it, pull it out, cut it in half, and just see how well it's cooked. Alright, so I've cooked these through in batches, probably about 8 to 10 at a time. You really don't want to overcrowd that deep fryer. About 2.5 minutes each, and they are looking delicious. Nice and crispy, golden brown. I've given them a light salt since they've come out. I've kind of piled them on this plate, but it's probably best to kind of spread them out so they don't get too soggy. Now, what I like to do from here, I mean, obviously this is too much just for me to eat. I mean, I'm sure I could eat it all, but I won't. I like to divide these into snap-lock bags and actually freeze these. So I find the beauty of this popcorn chicken is that you can eat a bit now, or a lot now, but it's easy to make in a large batch. And then I freeze them in little sections, and then I will reheat them in my air fryer, and that it's like they've just been deep fried. You put them in frozen from the freezer, just tip the bag in for about 5-6 minutes, and they will become nice, hot and crispy and tasty again. So yeah, I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I hope you really give this a go, because all these steps create a super flavourful, juicy popcorn chicken. It's nice and crunchy, crispy, delicious, and it's a great snack in the future.